Bro, we have some witnesses in the room that I'd release, but they might not be released depending on who the mystery rebuttal witness is. I still don't know.
Any other witnesses in the courtroom that might testify, please step outside. If you were ever going to,
I'll be able to tell who my rebuttal witness to do rebuttal might be. So I've released all my people with the exception of.
see Mr. Bartley, senior court, senior
Right.
lead.
I've released him depending on who this witness is. Could they tell us now who the witness is going to
Well,
be?
is this Mr. Bartley senior?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does he need to step outside?
I wouldn't think so. It just depends on who this witness is.
All of you may be seated, I'm sorry.
First rebuttal, what, you want to wait for the jury?
They're going to the restroom as soon as they get.
Okay, the first rebuttal witness will be Bill Crowley.
Can we approach? I moved this witness to the street because I never provided any of this impeachment evidence. And they knew it. His record, you just take the jury back out again.
Maybe seated.
gotta give me this record. I can't look at the facts on the warrants, I can't look at the facts on the indictment, I can't look at the judgment of conviction. They intentionally did not tell me at the break about who the witness was. I had 10 minutes, I could do anything about it. But now that you have, I've got to get a copy of this record. Where is it? And that's what we have. There's no judgment, there's no warrant. I didn't have a chance to go.
No, this is not a surprise witness at all. He is listed on the indictment. He was mentioned in Mr. Isaac's ordeal last Friday. It's not like that this is a person who's not been mentioned throughout this trial the whole time. I do have this. He's welcome to have a copy of it.
I have a copy. Here's the problem. My understanding is this man was penitentiary for selling pills, for robbing a pharmacy. This says nothing about the facts. I can't cross-examine it. This isn't an accurate copy of this record.
You can't cross-examine somebody about the facts that's going to get you involved.
Could you state your name, please?
William Crowley.
And Mr. Crowley, do you know the defendant, Kenneth Bartley?
Yes, I do.
How do you know the defendant?
He's a friend of my son, and also he was at the house a lot.
Okay. How long have you known him?
Well, before this, about 3 years before this happened.
You're talking about before the Campbell Tennessee shooting?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Crowley, do you have a criminal history?
Yes, I do.
Can you tell the jury what your criminal history is?
Well, I was injured in '96. I was electrocuted, and I was put on a lot of medications. I spent 1.5 years in the hospital, and I got on pain medication and was taken off of it, and I went crazy, I guess, and I robbed a pharmacy.
Okay. And, was that in 2007?
Yes, ma'am.
Which county was that in?
Anderson County.
Okay. And do you also have, so that's the aggravated robbery conviction?
Yes,
Do you also have a drug conviction?
yes.
And what's the drug conviction?
It was for pills, I forget exactly what it was all about, but it was for having pills, possession of pills.
Okay. So you possess the pills, were you convicted of distributing or selling the pills, or just
No.
possessing?
Possession,
And that conviction was in which county?
Campbell County.
Was it in Campbell County on the same day of your aggravated robbery?
No, that was it was before that.
It was before that, so there was one in Campbell County. Do you have any other convictions?
No,
Just the two?
yes,
The
ma'am.
aggravated robbery and the Schedule 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Mr. Crowley, I want to draw your attention back to November of 2005. Particularly November the 8th of 2005. Did you have plans to meet the defendant Kenneth Bartley after school that day?
No, never.
Did you have plans to meet him after school that day and trade him some oxycontins for a pistol?
I've never had no plans, never, to trade any type of drugs to any kid, ever.
And you knew Mr. Bartley,
Yes, I do.
the defendant, Mr. Bartley.
Right.
He'd been in and out of your home. You'll have to answer out
Objection,
loud.
I'm sorry.
Yes, we don't wait.
You'll have to answer out loud, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yes. He had basically a free roam of our house. He just basically could come and go and not even knock on the door.
And how often would he come and go to your home?
Just about every day.
Okay. And was he at your home the weekend before November the 8th?
Yes, he was.
And do you recall something happening that day as it relates to the defendant Bartley?
Yes, a friend of mine, well, he was a so-called friend, had come over to the house, and he had sold me some pills. And that day he was there, he had traded Kenny a knife. Bill Kenny traded him a knife for some pills.
And Mr. Crowley, I'm going to ask you, are you sure it was not you that traded the defendant Kenneth the knife for the pills?
I never, ever have traded Kenny any pills, never.
And never had planned to?
Never would trade a kid, any kid, pills.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Crowley. Thank you.
Mr. Crowley, let's talk about your familiarity with illegal pills and narcotics. You indicated that you, because of a bad turn of events, got addicted to opiates, correct?
Correct.
And you would obtain the opiates illegally, correct?
Not, well, on occasion when I would run out from the doctor's prescriptions.
And you live next door, within a few doors down of Kenny Bartley Sr. and 14-year-old Kenny Bartley, correct?
Correct.
And during this time, you were buying pills, correct?
Correct.
Selling pills, correct?
I never sold any pills. I per se never sold any. I'll say this, I gave pills to somebody else to sell, but I never sold pills.
Let's be very clear, because I've got someone here that's going to testify that you were involved in selling pills. That would be a true statement, correct?
That statement is something that I never did. I never sold
You
pills.
gave pills to other people to sell for you, correct?
That's correct.
And you either got prescription opiates in exchange or you got money, correct?
Yes.
So let's look at the jury and tell them again. You were a drug dealer selling opiates within a few doors of Mr. Kenny Bartley in 2005, correct?
Yes, there was times that happened, yes.
So you're not telling these prosecutors that you're not a drug dealer, correct?
I was then, stating that then, but I don't do anything anymore. I don't even do pills anymore.
In 2005, you were dealing drugs within a few houses of Kenny Bartley, correct?
That's correct.
And in fact, you haven't been truthful about your record here today because you indicated that you had an ag robbery conviction and a simple possession. Actually, you had a conviction for manufacture and resale of narcotics for which you received Schedule II narcotics, a 3-year sentence, correct?
That was with when I did the robbery, that was with that robbery because I had the pills that day also.
So let's talk about this. Over in Norris, you go in with a gun
Yes,
to a pharmacy,
yes,
and you pointed at the pharmacist and you asked them for their pills, correct?
correct.
And you placed that individual in fear for their life and you scored a bunch of narcotics, correct?
Yes,
And you pled guilty to that in Anderson County, Tennessee, and went to the penitentiary, correct?
that's correct.
And you also pled guilty to manufacture and resale. She asked you that question for drugs, correct?
I never manufactured drugs, so I don't understand that question.
Well, you had a felony drug charge that you pled guilty to also, correct?
The drugs was when I robbed the pharmacy. I had them drugs, but I never manufactured drugs.
Well, it's a legal term, manufacture, distribution, and resale. How many Oxycontin and Hydros and Roxys did you get when you walked into that pharmacy with your gun?
300.
300. And that's not your only brush with the law, correct?
No, I had one other.
Theft.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, there was a theft. I'm sorry.
So we know you steal, we know you robbed the pharmacy, we know you dealt drugs. We know you had another drug charge, correct?
Yes.
And during this time, now, Kenny Bartley never said that he called you or set up a drug deal on November 8th. These prosecutors didn't tell you that, did they?
Excuse me. Did you ask that question again?
Well, you say that Mr. Kenny Bartley, little 14-year-old, never called you about trading the gun that day.
Right, never.
Well, that's what Kenny says. He said he never called you, but he was going to find you after school. So it wouldn't have been unusual for him to have ridden home with Aaron because they were friends, correct?
That's correct.
Now, isn't it true that a few days, a week or so before this, Kenny traded a knife to you for pills, Mr. Crowley?
That's not true.
Your story is it was somebody else, correct?
Yes, it was, and he probably knows who that is.
Will you tell us who it is?
Darren Ellison.
You said who you talking about, Mr. Bartley?
Pardon me?
You said, we were saying, who you referred to, Mr. Bartley?
No, the gentleman that traded him his knife to Kenny traded his knife to this boy, Darren Ellison.
All right, okay.
At your house?
Yes, it was.
You were there?
Yes, it was.
You saw it happen?
No, I didn't. They went in another room
But you understood that's what happened?
later on, yes.
And did Darren Ellis get the pills from you?
No, he had brought the pills there to sell to me.
So then you told him where you facilitated getting the pills at your house to a 14-year-old, correct?
Yes, he did. And I told him that he realized that that boy was 13 years old, that he just sold them gave them 2 pills for that knife.
And at that point, did you call your neighbor, Kenny Bartley Sr., and say, hey, there's a guy at my house that just gave a 13-year-old 14-year-old opiates. Did you call Kenny?
No, I didn't.
Let him leave with the drugs?
Kenny was already pretty
My
high.
answer was, did you let him leave with the drugs?
Yes.
14 years old. It's your house. Now, whether it was Mr. Ellis or whether it was yourself, he knew you were a source of pills, correct?
Probably so.
You had a reputation for being a source of pills, correct?
That's correct.
You would do anything to trade, buy, or sell pills because you were hooked, correct?
Not the kids. Not the
You
kids.
just set up a drug deal.
I didn't
with
set
them.
that up. They did that out of my thing. I didn't know that that was going
Look at
on.
the jury and tell them what you did to stop it. That's really what happened. What'd you do to stop it?
I didn't, because I wasn't there in the room to see that transpire. I never saw that go on. And I didn't know, I wasn't aware of it till it was all, he had already left. Darren had already
Then
left.
tell us what you did to prevent this young man walking away with the drugs after you found out about it. That's your story. Anything?
No, I don't really have a story.
Well, the truth of the matter is that you would do anything to get pills. You would walk into a pharmacy full of other people. Were there young children there when you walked in with a gun? If you walked in, you pointed the gun, and you said, I want 300 pills. When you got your 300 pills, got in your car and you sped away? You did?
Yes.
The truth of the matter, Mr. Crowley, is that you were an addict, you were a drug dealer, and you gave and facilitated giving drugs to children that were 13 and 14 years old in the Campbell County community, correct?
No, I never, ever gave kids or had anything to do with kids getting drugs.
Well, you did yourself.
That's just not something I would do, and I don't appreciate you saying that about me.
Well, you robbed a pharmacy.
Yes, I did that, and I regretted it, and I paid for it. I went and did 8 years in a jail, in a penitentiary, and paid for it. Every day I paid for it.
And you just said to the
And I
jury,
regret it.
and you just said to the jury, you wouldn't have anything to do with helping young kids get drugs, but yet you were sitting there when you say, this is your version of what happened, Kenny Bartley gave Darren Ellis a knife for some pills.
But I was not in the room when that happened.
It was in your house and you were there, correct?
Yes, I was.
And
I
Darren
was
came there to give you drugs, correct?
Yes.
Was your son also in the house when the drug deal was going on?
I'm not sure. I really don't know where he was at the time.
So if Kenny Bartley had an expectation of giving you a gun for drugs, at that time you're not telling this jury you weren't a drug dealer, correct?
Yes, I was.
You're not telling this jury that he didn't get drugs at your house on at least one occasion before, correct?
Never. Not for me.
He got drugs at your house, correct?
Not for me.
Did he get drugs at your house, yes or no?
He got it at my house, but not for me.
And the truth is, Mr. Crowley, that you traded and sold drugs to Kenny Bartley again and again and again because you were an addict and a drug dealer, correct?
I was an addict and I was a drug dealer, but I never gave it to kids.
You let others do it in your bedroom, correct?
No, I didn't. I don't know anything about that.
You don't know anything about it?
No, I don't. I honestly don't. I mean, if they were doing it in my bedroom, it was not because I was sitting there or had anything to do with that, especially kids.
Well, what do you think a 14-year-old who lives next door is doing in another room with Darren Ellis, who had a pocket full of pills, come to your house to sell them to you? Do you think they were back there watching Cartoon Network, or do you think they were dealing drugs, Mr. Crowley? Let's be honest. Tell the jury what you
To be
thought.
honest, they were usually in there playing PlayStations. They were all in and out of my house all the time. I didn't know what he was doing, actually.
You used to go and rob that pharmacy?
Pardon me?
You have a number of guns, correct?
Don't have any guns. I
You
don't
had a
have
number of, you can't have, now 'cause you're a convicted felon. You had a number of guns, correct?
rifles, yes, sir.
Kenny knew you liked guns, correct?
He knew I liked rifles. I didn't own any pistols.
Knew you liked guns, correct, Mr. Crowley?
I used to, yes.
When's the last time you talked to these prosecutors?
Last week.
They asked if you were still doing drugs.
I believe they did. I'm not sure. I don't recall.
They didn't care, did they?
Objection, Your Honor, that calls for speculation on what
I will withdraw the question. They didn't ask you, correct?
No.
Did they ask you to take a drug screen so they could see if your testimony was reliable about the fact you're not doing drugs, since you were a drug dealer who had robbed a pharmacy at gunpoint? Did they ask you to take a drug screen?
No, sir.
And the truth of the matter is, Mr. Crowley, if you took one today, you couldn't pass it, could you?
Yes, I could. Yes, I could. And I'm proud of that.
Are you proud of Kenny Bartley getting you pills at your house?
No, I'm not. No, not at all.
Your witness.
No further questions.
Doctor, sir, you may step down.
That would conclude the state's rebuttal proof. We do have some exhibits, photos that we need to publish to the jury and file with the court. We'll check out one.
I have no objection.
that exhibit. Sir,
No, Your Honor.
let's vote. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to conclude all the proof in this case, and the only thing left now to do will be the court to instruct you on the law, and after the attorneys have finished with their final arguments. It's going to take a little bit of time to arrange the courtroom and get facilities here to make the closing statements to you, so rather than make you just wait until we've got the courtroom ready for the demonstrative evidence and the demonstrative aspects of the closing arguments, we want to close for today. So we will stop today, and I'm going to ask you to be back here tomorrow morning at 8:30. I'll ask the officers to get you back up here at 8:30 so we can once again get in and get the jury, get this case to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much, and we will see you tomorrow morning at 8:30.
All right. Please be seated.
Please, at this time, the state wishes to make certain offers approved concerning some prior evidentiary rulings that the court has made. The state would offer as exhibit, the next exhibit for identification, the CV of Dr. Vance in Sherwood. The state would offer his testimony for the purposes that he would identify himself as a clinical psychologist. We would offer him as an expert witness in the field of clinical psychology. He would offer testimony concerning the fight or flight response and the autonomic nervous system. His testimony for the purposes that he identified himself as a clinical psychologist. We would offer him as an expert witness in the field of clinical psychology. We would offer testimony concerning the fight or flight response and the autonomic nervous system. We'd also offer testimony concerning the effects of Valium on the autonomic fight or flight response. That's what he said. We would also move for identification the yearbook that moved in. The purpose of that would be in cross-examination of the defendant, Kenneth Bartley. The purpose of that would be to show, offer as evidence of animosity of the victim, of the defendant toward the victim, Gary C. Specifically, page 1 and 2 here. Right here. That's all. Thank you, Your Honor.
Anything else to stand tonight?
Your Honor, a request that the jury would be able to take the exhibit that Dr. Malusnik used, the body form, back with them in the jury room when they deliberate. They do have pictures, but we would like to allow them to have that in the room.
We would object. And well, it would speculate, move, and she used it for demonstrative evidence. I mean, if it's going to be in the jury room that is part of the record, it needs to go to the Court of Appeals. She introduced, I let her do the pictures.
Your Honor, it's the best evidence of that exhibit.
But I mean, of course, if it goes up to that door as well.
So it's going to be part of you're moving in. You're going to lose your dummy. That one.
I don't know what Keith Fitzgerald and Keith
They never.
But I mean that if they lost it, I mean, yes, if the jury is allowed to see the carried back there with me, that has to be an exhibit. Now, it can be to cure that. I can instruct the jury that if they want to see that done or whatever they want to do, they can request to see that, and they can be brought back in the whole court and view it.
That was
I respect the reason I thought she wanted to take pictures and why I agreed to publish the pictures to the jury was Ms. Ellis said very clearly we're taking pictures in case a reviewing court can see what happened. Now they want to have the dummy back there. If it's not in the record, I don't want the jury, and the jury can't come
Well, I would never, it can't go back there at all unless it's made as an exhibit. Now, they can ask to come back outside and sit in the jury box, and they can put it right in front of them, and they can look at it. Nobody can say anything. They can look at it again.
Well, here's the problem with that. It's back there. I don't think the arm's in the same position. I don't think it's configured the same way. So they're going to be conjecturing that the pictures are the evidence of, and all it is a demonstrative aid for Dr. Malusnik Polchin.
If you can get it in the same form that it, I don't see any reason the jury will want to come back out and see it. But nevertheless, if they want to come back and see it, they should see it and you can get it back into the position that it's placed on the exhibit. But if it's moved into evidence, then they have it can only be carried back to that jury room if it's moved into evidence.
Your Honor, we will just allow the jury to look at the pictures.
Anything else this afternoon?
No, Your Honor.
We'll stand in recess until, please remember, it will be 8:30.
No, Your Honor.
We'll stand November, it will be 8:30.